Welcome to Turning Hard Times to Good Times. I'm your host, Jay Taylor, and I'm really happy to tell you that Patrick Highsmith is with me once again. It's been a little while since we last talked to Patrick about Firefox Gold. It's a company he's a co-founder and also the chairman of, and it's a company that I think is getting so little respect. Is absolutely has a lot going for it, but the market isn't paying much attention. And of course, I've been really trying to focus on those little babies that nobody's paying attention to right now, because that's where you're going to get the biggest bang for your buck, I believe, in this gold bull market. So I should, before I say hello to Patrick, I probably should say that the company trades in Canada under the symbol FFOX, and you can buy it down here in the States as I have, FFOXF. 203 million shares outstanding, about it's hard to believe, 3.3 cents in US money that I saw today. That gives it a market cap of around, well, $7 million, maybe something like that. So that's why, if I didn't think this company had anything more than a shell company value, I wouldn't be talking to you. But this is one that I own personally. It is a recommendation in my newsletter. And the company is paying me a small fee for the cost of producing this video. But I think you want to pay attention because I think it's quite a story. Patrick, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you for having me, Jay. I think the gold price has doubled since we were together, so it's been a great run,
if not triple. I don't know. And we're seeing the major mining companies making lots and lots of money, and so they have to be looking for the juniors that are finding what they produce, I suppose. So I know you have a good relationship with one major company. I'm sure we'll talk about a little later. All right, so your flagship property is the Mustajärvi, and I probably always butcher the name. It's in Finland. Patrick, I've seen some just eye-popping assays over the years, which is why I've stayed with this stock, despite the fact that nobody seems to care. I'm just looking at the list here, 13.85 meters, grading 28.74 grams. That's maybe the best one I'm looking at now. It's almost a 400 gram meter hole, but there are a number of others that are well over 100. Here's another one, 6.87 meters of 59.12 grams. That's a 406 gram meter hole. These are phenomenal values. Now, I know that one issue has been maybe continuity. So far, we're talking right on surface or very close to surface. So far, it's, a big, high grade here, high grade here, high grade here, but not necessarily continuous through those. And I know that you've done a lot of work in trying to determine or to be able to know where those high grade systems exist. Maybe you can talk about that, or just maybe in general, talk about your plans for Mustajärvi this year going forward.
Yes, indeed, Jay, and I've stuck with it too. As you said, we've known a lot of our best news, Jay. Some of the ones you cited came out in 2022 and 2023 when the market was not paying that much attention. That last one you cited, by the way, the 6.87 meters of 59 grams, that was a trench. So we're literally talking about at surface in that case. But it is orogenic gold, Jay, as you point out, and these tend to be structurally controlled, related to that, the plumbing provided by those structures for those gold-bearing fluids all those years ago. And that does mean every now and then that you get these high-grade systems, which are hard to figure out where those grades go. And we've had structural geologists employed on this project from the beginning, taking a lot of measurements and helping us figuring out where those things go. And we've learned a lot over the last year. We chose not to drill last year, Jay, and instead we did work on our three-dimensional modeling. We did some geophysics, and we sort of come out of that really primed and ready to go with more drilling. And maybe I'll share my screen now, and we'll work through a few things.
Sure thing.
Yeah, okay. Let me know if you can see that okay.
So far, I'm not. Yes. Okay.
Okay. Great. Okay. So I think it's smart to refresh people's memory a little bit about where we're located, because this is northern Finland here, what we call the Lapland Greenstone Belt, Jay. And what I'm showing here is effectively the gold prospective regions of a greenstone belt, and it's centered on the city of Kittilä here. and the town of Sodonkula to the lower right. And there's just paved highways crisscrossing this area, international airport here at Kittila, the large Kittila mine operated by Agnico Eagle at the kind of top of the slide there, the red star. And then also noteworthy, Rupert's Ikkari discovery, which now has a probable ore reserve after their pre-feasibility study of 52 million tons at 2.1 grams per ton for 3.5 million ounces. So the two multi-million ounce deposits in this part of the world. And we've color coded everything based on the several players who really control the belt. Jay, that's maybe a reason people don't talk that much about Lapland. There aren't 20 juniors here cranking out news flow. It's only a handful. And if you look at Rupert in green here, Orion Resources in this purple color, Firefox in this gold color here. You can see several of our properties sprinkled around. And then we've got Valkia Resources, a relative newcomer. And then you've got B2 Gold's joint venture with Orion in this sort of, I don't know what color that is, kind of a pinkish color. And then up here in orange, a darker orange, is Agnico's land. And that's sort of it. It's fully pegged effectively. And that means that several of those juniors are reasonably small and have had some tough years. And none of us have drilled as many meters as we would like. And so maybe the news flow is a little constrained here because it is highly competitive, but amongst a small group of companies. And so anyway, that's our land position. And we've been talking about the Mustajärvi project right here, which we've added a bit of land onto. It happens to be our smallest property, but it's right off a paved highway. And we'll also speak a little bit about our Sarvi property right here next to the Rupert discovery, where we have 8 kilometers of property boundary with Rupert. And then this huge Kolho property in which our partner Agnico Eagle is earning in to 75% interest over this huge license. But since you've mentioned it, let's talk about the structural controls and the sort of complicated geology at the Mustajärvi property. So what we've done here is we've zoomed out a little bit. We own 100% of Mustajärvi, and it was founded upon this dashed black line, which is called the Mustajärvi shear zone. As we talked about, that's orogenic gold for you. You look for these big through-going structures, and you can see clusters of drill holes along about 2.5 kilometers of that structure. That was our initial Mustajärvi property. And I think since we talked, Jay, we've added a big block of land to the southwest and out here to the east, these white outlines. And these are up here 2-kilometer tick marks here. So we've grown the project out to the east, and we have neighbors here. We have Rupert to the southeast. We have Orion and B2 to the north. So this is a competitive area now after our initial discovery at Mustajärvi. And so I think that was part of the story was we needed to grow the size of these tenements, which we have now done. And as I said, we need to demonstrate that this thing has growth potential. And so now we've zoomed into the more familiar image that people have seen in our news releases. And there's a 0.5 kilometer scale bar at the bottom. And you can see paved highway up here in the Arctic. That's a pretty big deal. Great infrastructure, paved highway, a power line right of way here, Jay. And then these are the clusters of drill holes that have emerged into 3 lodes where we have encountered, 3D volumes of gold mineralization that are worth pursuing. First, the central zone, which was originally discovered in the 90s by Outokumpu, but we came in and started drilling there again. And in 2019, we announced 2 meters of 45 grams. So we had a nice hit there and a few more narrower hits. And then the geologists followed the structure out here to the northeast, and we discovered what's called the northeast target. And that led to some pretty nice holes as well. 2 meters of 33 grams was the first hole. And then we grew it into a bonanza lode here, including intercepts of 1.5 meters of 90 grams. And then we culminated that into 16 meters of 7.7. All of this pretty shallow, 50 to 100 meters below surface, Jay. And still the geologists were following the structure, looking for flexures in the structure or crossing faults, like you see these black lines. And as they got out here to the east, we discovered a lode called the east target. And initially, we hit into some nice holes there, and culminating in one of the ones you mentioned, 13.85 meters of 29 grams. And this mineralization started at 20 meters below surface.
Yeah.
And we found even shallower. We trenched there in 2023, almost 7 meters of 59 grams.
Yeah.
So what you see are these beads on a string that we sort of get used to seeing in orogenic gold. This is the early days. If you want to think about these fingers of gold coming up to the surface, only 15,000 meters total drilled here, and that's over more than 2 kilometers of strike length. So we've never really been able to focus and keep drilling despite these high-grade encouragement. So if you look at it in a slice through the earth, Jay, this kind of tells the story. These purple spheres are higher than 10 grams. So you can see nice intercepts at the central zone, to be sure, but they were narrow. And so we came out here to the northeast, and noted what you start to see is, wow, it's kind of plunging off to the northeast. A nice cluster of that very high grade I mentioned. And then you jump 700 meters away to the east target, and the high grade is very well and truly at the surface. And with help from, our friend Quentin Henney and others who are saying, look, don't step away from this, drill close, figure out where these cross faults are that are controlling high grade. And we started to do that, and we stepped out over 200 meters away, and we hit the zone again. And it's indicating that there are multiple lodes, but they are plunging back to the southwest. And then we came on the other side of the highway and drilled a couple of there's only 2 holes over 300 meters deep on the license here, Jay. So a couple of the deeper ones hit mineralization up to 13 grams at 230, 250 meters below surface. And while we always like shallow mineralization better, it's important to show that depth continuity is a possibility for real growth, Jay. So we did drill a few deeper holes, and we hit down there with some high grade. And you can see that's certainly suggesting that we want to explore between these lodes. And as you pointed out, we've had 12 holes. One of them was 90 gram meters. All the rest have been over 100 gram meters. We've had 2 trenches we've had 5 holes with more than 200 gram meters, and 1 trench with more than 400 gram meters.
All right.
So really, great thickness is a star of the show in these systems. And I'll just show an image of these trenches from 2023 and 2024. Here's that very high grade trench. And notice it wasn't driven by just, this is a very zoomed in 6 meter scale bar. It wasn't driven just by one asset. Everything mineralized, 27.4, 10 grams, 256 grams, 3 grams, 4 grams, 50 grams. And as far as we could trench without that trench collapsing, it ended in 27.4 grams. And then here, we came back a year later. Okay, it was only 10 meters of 14 grams, but still, this is
pretty darn good.
A lot of individual assays, 180 grams, 33 grams, 18 grams. And again, coming to surface, and about 70 meters there of apparently continuous high grade at surface. So the breakthrough for us was, Jay, we reflected and we said, what percentage of the time do we even hit gold on this property? Seems like we always hit gold. And about 79% of the time we drill, we hit better than half a gram, which is certainly significant in today's world. And as you can see, we have 40 intercepts here of some of our best intercepts. And you can see there's these 100 gram meter intercepts we were talking about. And they go up to 20 meters thick of 5 grams. So certainly there's this 1.35 meters of 94 grams I mentioned. Certainly we get bonanza grade veins, but we also get nice thicknesses that could be mined at a larger scale, that kind of bulk style of mineralization. And so, we kept advancing it. And this is what this east target looks like when you zoom in. 250 meter zone projected to surface of better than a gram. All these red blocks are quite high grade intercepts. And I just built this slide to say, look, is it growing to depth? Where here you see 2.5 meters of 15 grams at depth with the first hole ever drilled down there. And another one, 13 meters of 3 grams down here. Again, the only deep hole down there. So it doesn't take a brain surgeon to figure out this thing has a northeast-southwest strike. You need to get out and drill more along that direction and at depth. And we believe these lodes are going to grow. We believe we've already demonstrated the potential for more than 500,000 ounces of mineralization here. And let's just talk about that for a minute. This is often the criticism of orogenic gold. Oh, maybe it's just narrow high grade, which is even harder to chase. And certainly we have those, like these veins at Mustajärvi, which have run over 100 grams over narrow widths. But what changed in 2022 and 2023, Jay, was replacement styles of mineralization, where the rock has been replaced with albite and quartz and pyrite that you can see here. And pyrite is a good indication of gold. The rock tends to be conductive. We can use electrical geophysical methods to look for that. And the gold is on the margins of the pyrite boundaries, grain boundaries. It's not in the middle where it might be refractory. We can see this gold under the microscope, and we've been able to see it panning it and crushing the rock and panning it from the rock. So there is a free gold and favorable metallurgy associated with this, most likely. And these are nice long runs of replacement style mineralization, which you can see in these two core boxes of very high grade from the hole you and I spoke of, 13.85 meters from only 24 meters depth that averaged 29 grams per ton, 28.75. And you can see it's starting to be oxidized a little bit because it was near surface, but big chunks of continuous pyrite here, which is all running nicely for gold. And just some last pretty pictures showing this replacement style of mineralization, not just veins, but the whole of the rock is flooded with pyrite and gold and other gangue minerals, telling us there's a system here with some potential for modern, bulk scale mining. And speaking of that, to be clear, we have not drilled sufficiently to announce a resource here, but it is time to do so, Jay. And we figured that out by spending more time modeling this in 3 dimensions. So what you see here is that map view of the drilling we were just talking about, the central zone, the northeast target, and the east target along the highway here. And just to clarify, we draw a limit around our property here because this is a cabin around which we give a buffer zone, but we control the mineral rights there, and we can do work, and we'll drill on this property soon. So it's not a hole in our tenement, but to point that out. But these are clusters of drill holes with grade again. If it's 2.5 grams or above, it's red, as you can see there. So a bit of high grade here, more high grade here, and a lot of high grade in the east target. That stuff is starting to hang together. And we know we've got, zero drilling in between these two lodes, very little deep drilling. These things dip back to the southeast, Jay. So to drill deep, you would come in this direction and drill under these lodes, which we have not done. And zooming in a little bit more on this east target, which the team is so excited about, if you put this into Leapfrog and you tell the computer, model that shape, could you put an open pit on that and extract substantially high-grade mineralization from it, hypothetically? And you can see that shape is beginning to take shape here. Here's those intercepts at 230 meters, Jay, the first holes into that zone I told you about. But up here at 100 meters or less, look at the cluster of high-grade that we're beginning to pick up and we're beginning to see is repeatable. We're able to repeatedly hit right there. And if you just look, lastly, we have more exploration targets using electrical geophysics. This is work we did over the winter. And early this year, we announced this. And the pink plates are where the geophysicists say interior to the gold shapes. We know there's already gold here, but there's more of that. They're saying, look, there's more rock with pyrite, which is conductive. So the pink plate says, hey, these are conductive rocks nearby where you've done drilling. So we have targets inside there where we expect to hit more of that high pyrite, high grade. But they also said, hey, to the north and to the south, these pink plates indicate more of those pyrite-rich rocks. And this one here, Jay, I've shown on a bigger scale, indicates another structure where we picked up new ground with likely conductive rocks on it. So we could well repeat what we have on the Mustajärvi shear zone over here to the east, a couple kilometers away. And so this is the way these orogenic systems work. And if there's one thing the team should get credit for, it's persistence here. And that's the name of the game in orogenic gold. And that's why we are going to get after it this year, Jay. We're going to raise, $4 or $5 million Canadian right away. And we'll be able to drill immediately on the back of closing that from August right through the fall and winter, the best time to drill in Finland. And we're going to put a sizable drill program around Mustajärvi, which it has been crying out for some time. And, market conditions and our own, troubling dilution during these tough markets has restrained our ability to raise, 4 or 5 million or more to be able to drill 8 or 10,000 meters. We've only drilled 15,000 meters in total over like 5 seasons of drilling, Jay.
And you're planning 10,000 this year, 10,000 meters, something like that?
Yeah.
And that will be mostly at Mustajärvi, right?
That's correct. That's correct. As I'll just show you very quickly, we're fully permitted to drill on several properties, and there's certainly reason to do so. But we always want to advance our flagship while not forgetting a couple of other projects in the pipeline. So the substantial portion of our work will be along this Mustajärvi shear zone. Obviously, we'll be drilling close to this pod here to define it and expand it. But we'll also be drilling between these lodes where we were just talking about. We obviously have got to get out in here between these two lodes. And some of the holes will be finally to significant depths. 400 or 500 meter holes are definitely in the plan. And we may need to do that along the south side and between these zones here, and also here between the central and the northeast target.
All right, so are your geophysics work suggesting there may be something between those at depth, or what? Between those?
Yeah. In fact, you raise a good point. I neglected in the interest of time to talk about it, but I'll just flip back very quickly to this map. Up here in the north, we have the northern extent of our property wedge, and we control this ground as too. It's just a power line right of way. So there's kind of an easement there. But to the north, Jay, these are outcrop samples, almost 5 grams. Again, we announced this. We've been out to this site and looked at this structure, and clearly there's a little creek right here that runs along what we believe to be a cross fault, Jay. We can see it in the geophysics right there, that mag low right there. Yeah. And underneath our friend here who has this cabin, we expect to be drilling this structure in this drill program, and we've got 5 grams coming to surface there. Oh. That seems to be a repeat thing in Finland, Jay. Everywhere we go, it isn't just 1 or 2 grams, it's more like 5. Oh. And the grade on this cross structure, where it intersects the Mustajärvi shear zone, is completely undrilled. We have no idea yet, but we have some very good early indications. And we could have maybe drilled here a small program, but we knew let's wait until we're properly funded and we can drill it appropriately, because there is a bit of a low-lying swampy area here with the creek. So it's better to wait till it freezes and drill the structure appropriately. So it's another one of these potential cross structures, Jay, and it happens to fall right between here. And you can see the mag is saying there's something going on. There's mag high here, mag here, and then mag low tends to be where we find the gold. So we're pretty excited about that feature, just as one example.
All right. So you won't be drilling though much until September, October. Is that right? Did I understand you?
We will. We'll get this financing closed in July, and we will have drill rigs turning in August as soon as possible. Oh, okay. We have drill contractors ready to go. We've made sure we've got availability, and August, September are beautiful times of year there. And then they start to get ready for the winter come October. And then, as you've heard from us before, that's the best time of year to drill. You drill as the snow accumulates, and you make very, very minimal impact on the environment. You can go everywhere, even over the swampy areas. Mustajärvi happens to be high ground, Jay, so we don't have a lot of swamp at Mustajärvi. And we can drill summer or winter there, which is great.
And you've got funding pretty much lined up. I know you've got some very strong shareholder support. Crescat Capital for sure. I think Agnico Eagle is a company that's owns shares by virtue, I guess, of their joint venture at the Kolho project. So you're pretty well lined up with the funding that you're expecting.
We are out of the gate very strongly for sure. Our share registry, we really punch above our weight with respect to our share registry. Our biggest shareholder is Crescat Capital. And then after Crescat is Agnico at 11% on an undiluted basis. And they came in a strategic placement, Jay, and then separately did the earn-in agreement on the Kolho property here, which we can talk about in just a moment. So they're our second biggest shareholder. And then it would probably be the board with 8 or 9%. And then after that, several more institutional investors. And we're out of the gate strongly here. We have support from our cornerstone investors with this financing, and they tend to remain, pro rata, these large shareholders, as we go out and raise more money. But we're bringing in a prominent new investor this time around, John Robbins, the founder and chairman of Great Bear, up in the Red Lake camp, who had a beautiful transaction with Kinross a couple of years ago there. John is coming on board as a new investor, and we're very excited to have him on board. And we also have a large lead order from Concept Capital, a European gold fund that got a little bit of Firefox in our last financing, but they're stepping up in a big way as a lead order on this financing. So we're out of the gate strongly. I'm confident we will fully subscribe or oversubscribe this financing to give us that drill budget that we've needed. And frankly, so many supportive investors have said, wow, I'd really like to give you more money, but your market cap is so small, it's difficult to invest. And so the other thing we're doing, Jay, at the same time we're financing, is that we are consolidating the shares. We've had board approval to consolidate the shares on a 10-for-1 basis, but we're doing it in a very fair way. We, the founders and early investors, are going to get consolidated 10-for-1, just as incoming investors are. So we're doing it at the same time. When we close the financing, we'll close the consolidation, and we'll come out the backside with a strong treasury and, something like, don't quote me exactly, but around 35 million shares or so with money in the bank. And we do need to tend to that share capital and to show new investors that we're doing the work it takes to make sure our stock is priced more appropriately with our value, quite frankly, Jay. And there are funds, for instance, and investors who look at the stock, and even though the market cap is the same when you consolidate, the perception is that a tighter share capital is better. Certainly a higher price sends a signal that this company has valuable assets and a great team. And we have to be attentive to those sort of market forces. And so we are doing a consolidation at the same time we finance.
Yeah. Well, if you raise $4 or $5 million, 10,000 meters, and you're looking at relatively shallow targets for the most part, it could go a long way, especially in a hot bull market like we're in now. And I think probably people will start to understand the story a little better at that point. Maybe talk to us a little bit about the Sarvi project as well as the Kolho. I mean, Sarvi first.
Yeah, we'll close on that. Sarvi's here, and I'm just pointing it out right next to the Ikkari discovery, as we mentioned. Consider Ikkari. I don't even think Rupert has gotten the love they deserve in this market, Jay. I mean, reserve earlier, but consider that today, 2.1 gram per ton in an open pit with favorable metallurgical recovery, as Rupert has announced and disclosed in their pre-feasibility study. That is, what is that? That's $107 rock.
Yeah.
$107 rock
prices, yeah.
Gold value of that per ton. And even with mining costs having to escalate a bit with the inflation of the Biden era and the rising costs we've seen, you've got what is likely to be a very successful open pit operation there. And they've reported, even at only $2,150 gold, NPV on that thing of $1.7 billion US. So that is a very successful discovery, and just a few kilometers, again, off a paved highway. So Sarvi sits immediately north of that. We have an 8-kilometer property boundary with Rupert. They've been drilling to within a kilometer of our property boundary at the Heine North target here. There sits the Ikkari outline of where their initial open pit will be. And Sarvi is a fairly early stage exploration project. We've just done a little bit of drilling, and we did hit here one hole with, it was like 20 meters of 0.2 grams or something, a little bit more important silver intercepts in that hole. But it's a big area, and the same swamp that covers the Ikkari discovery extends up to our property, about to where this power line crosses. And underneath that swamp, there's a lot of exploration to do. We believe, us geologists, we're always trying to interpret structure from geophysics. And so you see a bunch of interpreted faults in here that suggest attractive targets at Sarvi. And on the west side, we've never had the money to go here. And this is an area where the Geological Survey of Finland drilled like 15 years ago, 3.5 grams over narrow widths. And we haven't even been there to follow up on it yet, Jay. So Mikko Neninen, our exploration manager, is super excited to get back out to Sarvi, and we will have a rig here in the upcoming drill season as well, right next to what we believe will be perhaps Europe's next gold mine here at Ikkari. So Sarvi, an important property with a lot of exploration potential, just enough cover to sort of hide its secrets from us, like the dance of seven veils. It's not revealed itself to us yet. But that's Sarvi. And then the other property, I mean, we call it a mega project because it was 120 square kilometers, and Agnico Eagle optioned that from us, and they have to spend $12.5 million US to get to their 75%, $2 million of which is committed. And we expect that they will meet that commitment during this year. They've been very active on the property, and we're showing you that here with a 5-kilometer scale bar. It's a big property. Here's Ikkari. Here's the structural corridor that comes out of Ikkari, and notice the blue lines here as it bends through our property, which Agnico has now optioned. And they've had aggressive exploration in the winter here. This is the same swamp again that we have at Sarvi, immediately to the north, and at Ikkari. That same swamp continues along this fault zone here. And so they've been doing base of till sampling here, where the swamp freezes and they can drill through the swamp and explore beneath it. And we're excited that Agnico continues to have advancing exploration here. They've had 3 base of till rigs out here working in the winter, and our geologists help out when they need the extra help on their team. So they continue to advance the property, and we look forward to them continuing to meet the commitment and hopefully earn all the way in to 75% of a very big project. Frankly, the kind of major project that you really need a major company to explore.
Oh, yeah, so for sure. So the 12.5 million they need to spend to earn their 75% interest. What's the time frame for that? How many years do they have?
Two-stage vesting. So they first they have to spend 5 million by year 5. So we're about a year and a half into this so far. And that 2 million, as I mentioned, is committed during the first 3 years. So we expect they will achieve that. And then at that point, they would be 51%, or they would pull the trigger on an additional 7.5 million in another 3 years to get that final 24%, which would leave us with 25% of a major company's project that they've spent $12.5 million on. So clearly, that would have a lot more value than our tiny little market cap suggests. We expect some upside from that, and of course, we own Sarvi 100% here, right next to Rupert and right next to the joint venture property with Agnico. Yeah,
well, you certainly have a lot going for you, Patrick, and I think this is why I wanted to get the story out. I guess so. Maybe the drills will start to turn as early as August.
Yes,
and that's and I think, and does Agnico Eagle share information details with you, or to what extent can you pass along what you learned from the Agnico Eagle joint venture?
Well, we certainly can't pass it along, but we learn a lot, Jay. It's the team in country is just excellent. They are, they've been operating that mine since 2009. We've known that team for a very long time. Our exploration manager worked for Agnico. So the relationship is excellent. And we do have periodic sort of technical committee meetings. There's a lot of exchange and interaction, purely technical stuff. It's not really material anyway when geologists get together and talk. But we do value that relationship, and we sort of have a check on our process. Guys, we're thinking of working here and there, and what do you think about that? It's a non-binding sort of immaterial discussion. You get the benefit of the world's second most valuable gold company, and you get the benefit of their input for also having been longtime operators in Finland. So they really couldn't have had a better partner in that part of the world. And the technical exchange we have, we're going to meet. We met at PDAC, for instance. I got to join that meeting. Our exploration manager meets with them regularly in country. And we also have upcoming in October, the biannual Finno-Scandian Exploration and Mining Conference, Jay, where we always have a great sit down with Agnico. And it really does feel sort of like a big brother there to have their operational experience and the dialogue we have, technically with them. It's been a strong bonus that, again, doesn't show up in your sort of market cap or a share price by any means, or your drill results necessarily. until it does, and then when you have that sort of impact and a positive result comes from it, then that's when we really get excited about it. And we're glad. We believe the strategic investor was important. Obviously, we would prefer to have had them invest at a much higher share price, but it's a real tribute that they've been with us and continue to support us now a year and a half into that relationship. And we have this open dialogue with them. And in general, we expect big shareholders like that to continue to support us as they have previously done.
Yeah. Well, there you have it, folks. It's $7 million market cap. I guess, Patrick, will get the news that we should look forward to in the near term is the financing. It's probably going to take place and the rollback to be followed by the drills turning in August. And, I just think that, people are going to start to catch on to the value this company has. To be defined for sure. There's an awful lot of work that needs to be done, but boy, those high grades, certainly a lot of smoke here. So I'm pretty sure there's a pretty good fire down underneath in this orogenic system somewhere. And if really, I think I saw that your deepest hole is about 250 meters or something like that, Patrick. So it's really pretty much shallow drilling to try to pull together a starter pit, I guess.
Yeah, I think the hole itself was over 300 meters. That intercept was at 250.
Yeah.
But you're right. And we've had visitors in the core shack looking at this core with larger companies, Jay. And one of the first things they say is, wow, you've done no deep drilling. And of course that's true. And in a difficult market, as you know, we were drilling shallow high grade, so that's a good thing. But then the flip side of that is, can you show that it continues to depth? Because that's where growth is likely to come from. Mm-hmm. These systems can go multiple kilometers depth. The rumor mill is that drilling at the Kittila mine has intercepted ore grades at over 2 kilometers deep. So clearly these systems go deep. And there's another little thing that, if you think about why the Lapland Greenstone Belt has eluded high profile, is perhaps too, remember, 98% of the belt I just showed you is covered by at least a thin veneer of glacial cover. At Mustajärvi, we had to move back 5 or 6 meters of glacial sediment to get down to that bedrock to trench. That's about the most you can trench through, Jay. So, but mining through it is nothing, of course, 5 or 6 meters of dirt. Mm-hmm. But in any event, with 98% of the prospective ground obscured, we need to rely on technology, geophysics, but a lot of drilling. You just have to drill a lot. You can't walk up and break off examples of these host rocks. So we've got numerous other targets we haven't even had time to go into, where the glacial cover, we get an outcrop with gold, for instance, at our Yesio property, 33 grams, 10 grams. Those are in our rock chip results. And then elusively, it goes undercover as you move to the north into the sort of what we think is a part of the target. So it gets more expensive to explore, and you have to be judicious in how you do that. But we've got the experience. Our CEO is in Finland in the same time zone as our exploration manager, who built a house 5 minutes from the core shed. Our field office is 5 minutes from his house in the Arctic. So our decisions are made in the time zone, Jay. When land comes open, we grab it. When we need to drill, we shake hands and grab the driller and go to work. And I think that's another advantage of having a company that is fully local like we are. And, me and Janice, our CFO, are the only North American staff. Everybody else is focused in Finland. So it's a real Finland story.
It's a real Finland story. It's a story that could have, a lot of potential at depth. And I'm sure that in the back of the minds of your Agnico Eagle friends and Crescat and others that are technically inclined, they're thinking in terms of the long term. But for right now, you got to get through, start to generate some interest in the shares. And I think you're going to do that, Patrick, with this story. You really have a lot going for you. So we'll look forward to keeping up with your story as we move forward. I want to thank you very much for your time. And we'll look to talk again sometime when you have some significant news, perhaps, if you're so.
Absolutely. Yeah, look forward to keeping you posted and getting great news out into this strong gold market. I see a bright future for gold miners ahead. So.
It's the time now, Patrick. We've been through the years when it's really difficult, but it looks like the markets really want gold now for good reasons, economic reasons. The monetary system is sort of melting away, I would say. And so people are really inclined to go for real money. As JP Morgan said, gold is money, everything else is credit. So
Yeah.
thank you. It should be fun. It is fun now, finally, in this business. So thank you very much, Patrick, for your time today. All right, folks. Well, that's it for today. I do hope to have Michael Oliver joining me sometime in the near future. And of course, we're always looking for these tiny little companies that are so undervalued. Nobody's paying attention. You just heard from Patrick. Firefox Gold is certainly one of them. It's one that I've increased my holdings of recently in anticipation for the company raising some money and doing some drilling, because I think the potential is really there for something very extraordinary. Thank you again, Patrick, and all the best.
Thank you. Cheers, Jay.